How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another special edition of the Analyst Desk. It is I, Jacob Moore, the sports analyst, and I am joined by Mr. Moore for your money.
Woo! Hello, everyone.
Lane, Dashing Dashco, and the man of many names. Some of you know him as Steve.
No.
Some of you know him as Frank, but it's Adam.
I am not Frank.
Nobody.
Frank. No,
Your
Lane. No.
Your fault.
No.
But what
We
we're
did
here
it, Brian.
to do,
No.
the Olympics.
No.
Not true.
Finito. We're heading into
This-
the NHL stretch before we hit the trade deadline. So we got to look at these teams, kind of see where they're at, and we're going to have some great discussions about what these teams should potentially be doing. So I say let's take this. Why don't we go like division by division?
Okay.
Okay.
And
I like it.
let's start
I guess we
off
start
with
with the
everyone's
Atlantic.
favorite team,
Okay.
or at least
The
your
Tampa Bay
favorite team to
Lightning.
talk about and listen to us complain about, the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh,
So-
okay. I thought you said that. I thought you meant the Tampa Bay Lightning, which is.
When
You know
I
what?
look
I
at the
just- I
Maple
was
Leafs,
confused.
and I'm curious if you guys agree with me or not, I have them right now. They're on this weird bubble, right? Like I don't know if they should be selling the whole farm right this second, like selling everything you got. But I also don't think they should really be out there buying if the deadline was like buying today. So I don't know if you guys agree with me. I think the Leafs are in this really weird position because they have some great guys they could sell. You have I think Morgan Riley might actually be willing to leave. You have Bobby McMahon, you have Jason Robertson, you have Max Domi, you have OEL, potentially Jake McCabe. You have one of your three goalies, probably Stolars, with our teams interested in Hildebeest. But you're only 5-6 points out of a playoff spot heading into this stretch. So is
So
it
what
fair
grade-
to say the Leafs might be best to just sit on their hands a little bit
They're
longer?
a bubble. They're a bubble team. They're bubble. I agree, like a bubble. But I think that if you're going bubble, I think you're a bubble, like you're in the middle, so you're a buyer / seller. I don't think you could be one or the other at this point, especially with this season this team's had. And it's just been a really weird and just all around awful season so far. It's not been good.
So what grade would?
But
I did-
I think you go. I think you go in the middle, and I think because you could sell off some pieces because Bobby McMahon's going to be an expensive contract extension in the summer. That I don't think. I love Bobby McMahon. I think he is a phenomenal player. I love having him on this team, but I don't think this team, even with the cap going up this summer, they can afford to keep Bobby McMahon at a reasonable price.
Not true.
And he's gonna get close to, let's be real, teams are gonna overspend this summer. That's just the way things are gonna be. And because all of the big guys have all gone off the market, basically outside of Ovechkin. But nobody really knows what Ovi is gonna do this summer. So with that in mind, Bobby McMahon will more than likely, with an overspend, potentially get between $4.5 to $5.5 million because teams will overpay for players who had a good season. And Bobby McMahon is having a good season this year. And I just think selling him when you could potentially just lose him in the summer for nothing, but you could also, at sane prices, buy. But you have to do like a good mix if you're gonna do that. If we are truly a bubble team, you gotta do a bit of both. I think selling players that you can obviously get for a higher price than you can get in the summer, because OEL's value is never going to be this high. Again, it's not going to be this high this summer, I doubt, than what he is right now. So you could potentially move off of him and get something back for him, given his age and given his price. McMahon is another one. I think you just kind of, or even Max Domi. Max Domi, point wise, is having a good season. He may just be iffy and so, but some team is going to trade for him if he is available because he could add something to deepen your lineup. That could be like a kind of an energy guy, and it adds a little bit of scoring, adds some like decent playmaking. And, I just think there's you got to find the right balance, though. I just don't think we can be one or the other at this point. With the season we've had, at least.
The Leafs are certainly in a weird predicament, which is why I personally have them on the sit on your hands until March situation. But I want to go around the room here. And Lane, I want to start with you. If you're going to give this team a grade so far for this season, are they an F? Are they an A? Are they a C- with the ruler getting hit across their fingernails to try harder? What's this team at right now?
I wish there was a grade lower than F. I think this has been a huge disappointment season. And I get there's been other theories with injuries, and you haven't had your full lineup really for it feels like a substantial time. Even when you do, something comes up. But then again, we talked about the number. It's 275. It's been 275 days since Brad Treliving's made a trade, and whether you like it or not, there was I said this, and I'll continue to say it. I don't care if I'm wrong. I don't care. I really don't care. There was a time to make a trade, and it was when you were getting hot there in January, when the season started to look up, when things started to move, when you were starting to look forward to it. That team was starting to get hot. They started to look good. Dennis Hildeby was rocking the net. You had Chris Tanev come back. That was your chance to go out there and acquire a top 6 forward or that top 6 defenseman that was going to propel this team from being the team that was hot in January into being the team that's going to make the playoffs. Except for they sat on their hands in leaves too long, and they got really cold to a point where now they're right back where they started back in December. So I don't like that personally. They actually distrusted their best goalie at the time, which again, I don't like that. They've been playing with the guys who apparently aren't even healthy because MLSC couldn't spend another $300,000, whether you like it or not. Even though a company will charge you $7,000 to get in the building, they can't spend the $3,000 to pay a medical doctor so the team can stay healthy. So there's a lot of different things that pisses me off. But what I'm going to say is this team needs to wake up and make it stop. They can't sit on their hands because they either have to. You can't lose this pick. You can't give a top pick to Boston. So what you got to do is you got to sell right now so you can get that top 5 pick back. Sell McMahon because you're not keeping him. Sell Domi because he's having a good season. Sell the guys you can sell and get some good prospects and get somebody in the farm. Get some more sheep and some cows and some ducks. Get whatever animals old McDonald's willing to give you. Get some picks and try to build back for next year. You obviously can't get rid of Morgan Riley, Austin, Matt. You can't get rid of those guys. Those guys are going to be here. That's fine. And those guys are going to be fine, maybe be fine next year. But make the decision now. You probably aren't going to be a great playoff team. Let's just be honest. I don't think this is going to be a deep playoff team. Even if you do make your 4 games, you're in and out, goodbye. So I think you sell, try to get your top 5 pick back because that is an asset you can actually get back, get a top 5 player, you find some guys in the offseason, and restart fresh next year when guys are healthy.
You're okay with basically saying the year's cooked.
It's cooked. I think
even if they come back and they win 3 straight, you're still going to be like the year's cooked. It's not a cup winning team. I don't care. I just want them to sell. And if that's your answer, that's totally fine. I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that you should try to, the Leafs. We talked about how they haven't had assets. And they don't really have assets, right? You have Easton Cowan, you have Ben Danforth, and outside of that, you don't have a lot. So if this is the year that you can kind of restock, you got to restock the cupboard at some point. And if this is the year that Brad Treliving can kind of put some, maybe some bread on the shelf, some eggs, some butter, some canned corn, if you can get to the food bank and go get some fresh vegetables. This is the year to do it because I just don't think this team is going to go deep into a playoff run with the way it's currently rostered, where they're the worst defensive teams. Their goalie numbers are terrible. Their roster isn't even really that healthy. We don't even know the health of William Nylander going forward or Austin Matthews. We don't even know Chris Tanev is probably coming back at all until at least the playoffs, even if that. So I just look at this team. Okay, this year you had your year, you had your chance in January. You let it slide. Now it's too late. Now you have to make it. And I hate that because I think Adam has a point where, maybe if they had made that trade January 5th instead of just sitting on their hands and knees waiting for something, this team could have been a very different. No, I think this team could have been in a different situation. You go get that top 6 guy in January, you're on a 10-game streak and you're on a heater and you've got 6 guys sitting in the press box playing Sudoku every night. Move some of them, get that top 6 guy, trade Easton Cowan or Ben Danforth, then get that guy now because you waited too long till you went on an 8-game losing streak and you're right back where you started. You had your chance and you blew it.
It's
Well,
been
Lane,
it's been a very
wait,
frustrating
Jacob.
time to be a Leaf fan for sure.
What's up?
Wait, Jacob, I just want to address something Lane just said. So, Lane, I looked this up actually. This is from Hockey Reference. So you said the Leafs should just suck and try and get the top 10. So currently, as it stands, the Leafs the worst point the Leafs could get based on 1,000 simulations of the remaining of the season. The worst points the Leafs could get is 77. Now, based on that, there are 10 teams who could get it worse. Now, if the Leafs fall, even if they suck,
they could win a draft lottery, though.
Lane, they cannot get worse than 77. So that's out of the top 10. You cannot jump in to the top 10 far enough into the top 10 to
what teams
retain our pick. So doing that, you're still giving Boston a very good prospect. You're still giving Boston because this draft is not just good on the top end. There are a bunch of teams. There are a bunch of very high-end, very good players in this draft. You are still giving Boston. There's no way they could drop into the top 10 to then still retain their pick because it's top 5 protection.
That's fair.
They should have had better protection on it, and that is a loss on the management.
That trade's aged like milk, not wine.
Doing what you're saying, Lane, and I've said it before, it does makes no sense to sell to try and suck because it's already too deep into that. If they wanted to do this, they should have done it 3 months ago.
But didn't I say that?
But yes, Lane, you did say that. But now your theory is it's too far gone. Your theory does not what you think the Leafs should do. Not say that's your opinion, you can have it. But your theory only leads to Boston getting a very good
maybe
prospect.
It does. I don't
no
know.
No matter what they do, I bet it's frustrating, Lane. But at this point, doing that still gives Boston a very good prospect. No matter if it's top 10 or not.
You know what, guys? Can I just say this? And then I definitely want to throw this to Mr. Moore for your money. But I don't really care what pick we give Boston. I couldn't care less. And maybe that's odd as a Leaf fan. I am more focused on if we're going to sell, how can we flip Domi, McMahon, OEL, and one of our 3 goaltenders into 2 first-round picks and a couple second-rounders? I think that has to be the goal if you are selling. All I am saying is if I was Brad Tree living, I'd have a lot more money. I could renovate my kitchen. And I would also say I'm just going to hold off another week or 2. Sometimes patience is a virtue. But Mr. Moore, for your money.
Until the deadline. You definitely
but Dan, what's your thoughts on this, Dan? Like you said from the start of the year, you didn't think this Leaf team had it. So what are your thoughts right now?
Okay, I get the vibe at Adam's a little more positive than Lane and I. Same with you, Jacob. And that's
I'm not trying to be positive. I'm just telling you guys that it doesn't I'm not trying to be positive. Like I get this season has been a disaster. Like I fully understand it, but realistically, like it's not being positive. It's being fully realistic with you guys that the way you guys want to go about this season, the rest of this year, only leads to us screwing ourselves with the Boston pick. We've already screwed ourselves. The trade was a disaster. We've given them a very good prospect, no matter what we do. If we go down the path of being as bad as we can be, you guys are talking about giving them one of the better players in this, like a top 15 prospect. Like that doesn't look good. Like it's like when we traded away Tuukka Rask, or when we traded away the first overall. What turned out to be the first overall pick.
Adam, I do want to see what Dan has to say about that.
No, sorry, I'm just saying. Like I'm not.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so what I was trying to say is, I think it's okay. You guys think that. I think I called it since training camp. This team was pathetic because they lost like a lumpet. He lost a 100-point guy, and we placed it with a mediocre, maybe 50-point guy from Utah, which is not going to play well in the pressure of the Toronto market. However, there have been some positives with this team. I like the fact that Dennis Hillaby has took a step up. I know the injuries sucked, but I think when they're healthy, Dakota Joshua and Scott Lawton have played incredible with his team. And I think guys like Bobby McMahon and Nicholas Robinson have stepped it up to a higher level than what they were previously as a Maple Leaf. And I think OEL has arguably been one of the best surprises of the year. So as an overall grade, I'm going to give this team a C because I think there's a lot of small failures and goods, but there are a couple goods with this team. Now, when it comes to trade deadline, the weird thing is like, yeah, this team, in my opinion, is really bad, but you got to look at the injuries. If you didn't have the injuries of Scott Lawton and Dakota Joshua, if you didn't have all the injuries of William Nylander and Austin Matthews, where would this team be if they played a full 60 games? So as crazy as it sounds, Jacob, you said we're at 6.0 playoff spot, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's 3 games between now and the trade deadline. I would play for 3 games. If you win the 3 games, I would buy because I think if you can get those guys healthy. Oh, the other thing I had to say is Troy Stetcher is the best comeback story of the year, right? So give the Leafs credit for that. So because you got to look, if these guys are healthy and you add a little more depth to it, I think you could make a playoff run. I really do. But if you're in the deadline and you're not in a playoff spot, I don't think this is a team that's going to crawl into a playoff spot with only 15 games up. Because that's the other thing. The deadline is later this year than normal years because of the Olympics. Usually the deadline's about 20 games left. This time it's only about 15, 17 games left, depending on the schedule, right? And so you got less games to do it in, and you got such big competition. I know it's tough, but I think Florida's still going to squeak into a playoff spot. You got Boston. I think I can still squeak into a playoff spot. You surprisingly have Buffalo this year. Surprised a lot of people. You got Detroit, who I'm confident is going to make a playoff spot. And even Ottawa. I don't think Ottawa is going to make it this year, but I think they could. And that's the problem with the Maple Leafs, because last year with Craig Berube, even though it was one more game, they made it to Game 7 of Round 2, which is the farthest this Matthews-era team has ever made it. So I think it's a complete fail because you finally made the farthest you finally made of this core four, and now you made it so you're not even to a playoff spot for the very next year. I know losing Mitch Marner sucks, but you got to stop using that as an excuse. I think it's just as bad on the manager. I said Nikolai Ehlers was the perfect solution for this team because you could have got Ehlers, would have got you 70, 80 points instead of 40 or 50 points, and it would have spent you $8 million instead of $12 million. You would have had a cap to bring in someone else. It would have been the perfect solution, and everyone just completely ignored it for whatever reason. So
I don't think he wanted to come here. That's the biggest problem, Dan.
Well, then you make him come. Do what it takes.
You're assuming that every single player wants to play in a market that doesn't appreciate you. And
I
look,
understand
I'm just saying it, and you guys don't like it when I say that, but it's a fact. We're in a market
I love it
here
when you say, 'cause it's the
where
truth.
a lot of players feel it's not worth the BS. But we all have made very valid points about where this team is.
I haven't graded my team. I haven't graded
moving
them
forward.
yet.
But without, so now you've made all your points. So just
well, that's probably your grade, Jacob, and Adam's grade.
Dan, that's literally what I'm trying to throw to.
Oh, okay. That's funny.
Okay, guys.
Well, Dan and Lane already did it.
I know. So I'm saying, Adam, because Adam, you've already gone over all your points. So what's the team grade you would give it? Where we're at right now.
C+, because I don't think it's been bad enough, nor do I think it's been good enough to be a B. I think it's been a very mixed season.
I'm giving this team a D+ because I think the roster is underperformed.
Oh, shoot. I forgot about the letter D. Let me rephrase it. I give my team a D. I forgot all about the letter D. I don't know how I forgot about the letter D. You think, that's probably the best letter in the alphabet. It stands for my name, Dan. It stands for something else to make us all men that we love.
Okay.
So, it's like the best letter in the alphabet. I completely forgot about it. So I'm going to give my team a D.
Well, on that bombshell, let's move on from the Maple Leafs. And I want to stick in Canada. And I'd like to talk about our Ontario rival, the Ottawa Senators. Now, I have a very hot take about the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah.
And I think you guys will think I am crazy.
Let's hear it.
They absolutely have to make the playoffs. And if they don't, they are moving on from Brady Tkachuk.
I can see that.
I think Brady Tkachuk has caused so much drama and BS. The way he has publicly been very pro one political side over another, which we're not going to really get into all of that. But I just don't think he is a good representation of the nation's capital. And also, too, if you go from making the playoffs for the first time in a bunch of years and then taking a big step back, as I think the Senators have taken a step back this season. I think
100%.
Tkachuk's gone, and I think Green's potentially gone. But however, if I'm Ottawa right now, I am say the Leafs are on the bubble leaning towards selling. I think the Senators are on the bubble leaning towards buying, just because I think they're at a point where they feel like they have to find a way to get in. And I don't think getting James Reimer is enough to get in. Like, I think if you're Ottawa, you got to be making some phone calls about making some other decisions, whether you call out to Seattle and see if Jordan Eberle is available, or you're talking to Edmonton to seeing what you would need to swing the other way to bring in Mangiapane, hoping that he can have a bounce back in a different group. Ottawa's another bubble team for me, but I do feel they are in a position more where they need to buy more than sell. I don't think the fan base in Ottawa will be very happy if they become sellers.
Go ahead.
So my thing about Ottawa, because Ottawa, I said this last year. I thought this last year when they made the playoffs last year. I thought they were too. I thought this same thing about Montreal. But of course, we're not talking about Montreal. But I do think they were a step. They went not a step too far, but it felt like the team that they sent to the playoffs were made to play one way. But like, I don't think like very grindy, a very playoff style. But the major thing for Ottawa was that their defense just wasn't very good. Like last year, I don't remember what stat it was in, but none of their defensive pairings landed in the top 40 of like a certain defensive metric. I don't remember what the metric was. I remember seeing it. Like their top defensive pairing in terms of it was the Zub and Shabbat, which was I think their third pairing in the playoffs. I think that's how they had them listed, was their second or third pairing. And that's just like, you can't have your best, one of your better pairings be your third pairing when Jake Sanderson and the guys ahead of them, like all of those guys need to be better. And I just think their major, like they did add to their defensive core, but I don't think they added enough. And then their goaltending was suspect last year outside of Allmark, who had like a decent season. He had a very Allmark season, I would say, because he had one really good year with Boston, but all his other years have been good, but not great, not amazing. And I think that was good for them. That was great to have that good goaltending. But I still think it's still a major issue is that their backup goalie in Merlankin hasn't been playing very well this year. Allmark, of course, hadn't been playing very well before his injury. He's been all right. Or not his injury, sorry, his leave.
His mental health issues,
yes. I just described it wrong.
I think Ottawa might be due for a change, but it's tough to say about necessarily blowing this team up after. I get what you're saying, Adam, about maybe they got there too early last year, but at the end of the day, they got there. And
can I finish my point?
Yes.
Sorry. So I was just saying, I think they didn't address their defensive issues. They didn't address their goaltending, their backup goaltending, because they brought in James Reimer, who is James Reimer. He's not been particularly great in the back end of his career. Their forward scoring depth isn't exactly amazing. Like, I'm just looking at their points. It's Stützle and that 12-point drop to Jake Sanderson. And it's just they have good scoring depth outside of that, but it's Tim Stützle has been their best player, but he's only played 57 games. Brady Tkachuk's only played 37. He's a point per game. Shane Pinto's missed games. really Greg's missed games, David Perron's missed games, Shabbat's missed games, I'm pretty sure. Like, there's been players who have played every game. Sorry, Stützle's played every game. But, like, Brady Tkachuk's missed all but 37 games. Pinto's missed games. Perron, Greg, Shabbat missed a ton of games. Like, you have a lot of players, like, Linus Ullmark's only gone into 30 games this year. He's played half of your games, but, like, again, he's has an 84 save percentage. He hasn't been amazing. And it's like there's so many concerns with Ottawa that I would buy if I were them. I think they do need to make the playoffs, especially with the way they talked last season ahead of the playoffs and how they talked in the offseason. I think if you don't make the playoffs, it's a disaster because this Ottawa team is it's a very good team. You have a lot of very good players. But like you need to buckle down. You need to make the playoffs. I don't care what has happened this season. Like it's kind of a must playoff run for them, I think, at this point. Like if Buffalo gets in before them, given Buffalo's track record for the last decade isn't particularly great, especially since they made the playoffs more recently. Like it's something that needs to happen in my eyes. And yeah, that's my opinion on them.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you. I think we're in a similar objective of the Ottawa Senators. Lane, are you more on Adam and my side, or do you think maybe the Senators were putting too much pressure on the Senators team and being a little too aggressive?
Tough to say, right? Because I still think there's something here, right? Like I actually like a lot of the things you say about the Leafs. I actually see more for the Sens and Leafs because I feel like this team, like I really think this team is young. I think there's something like I think that I like. It's funny. Everything maybe it's just because I'm a Leafs fan, but everything you guys say about the Leafs. I actually look at the Sens like that. I'm like, man, this team's got a plus. They still got a plus in the goal differential. They still can win the games. They got Tim Stützle. They've had a healthier season. They've looked like a good team at times. Yeah, I know they've come crashing down, but if they can get a solid goalie in there that can kind of like, which is actually I got a bit of a gas for ass here, and I don't know if this is possible, but. You don't have to roll the bumper. I'm just saying a little bit of gas or ass here. What if maybe, I don't know if this is possible, but maybe you go to St. Louis and you see if Jordan Binnington, you get a real gamer in there instead of Ullmark, who, let's be honest, has had a bit of a season with, mental health. He's had people picking on him. He hasn't had the best season. What if you go get someone who's got some real mental fortitude, needs a change of scenery, has shown that in the big times when you need him, he's going to be a gamer, and put him on a team with some snarl and see if he can kind of take this team to the next level. Like, I don't know. Maybe I just think they need an actual, like a real goalie. And I feel like sometimes I feel like Jordan Binnington could be that guy being put in the right situation.
I mean, Binnington's an interesting tool. I mean, I think Ottawa, I don't know if they're looking for a guy like Binnington. I think they're more looking for like a Jake Allen out of New Jersey potentially. But I do like the idea of potentially bringing in a Jordan Binnington. I mean, especially, considering he's a guy that seems to know how to step it up in big games. But Dan, what's your thoughts?
Okay, call me a little crazy here.
Okay, you're crazy.
I'm going to say it. As much as I harped on the Maple Leafs, I think Ottawa's in a worse spot than Toronto.
What?
I really do.
What?
And here's why I think this.
It's not true. It's not true.
Maybe on the ice, they got 2 more points than Toronto. That's fine and dandy. I think for worse because of the locker room drama. I feel so bad for Linus Ullmark. Everything him and his family has been through. It's a horrible situation. And I don't know if they handled it the best. At the time, I thought they did. But now looking forward, I don't know. You got the whole James Weimer debacle in it. And I really feel like this team sort of made a step forward this year. It's like I was saying, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, right? I have to think Weimer's played pretty well, all things considering what he's flown into. I think the only bright spot you can say from this team is Stützle has really improved to be a franchise player. And Dylan Cousins, who I thought was a terrible move on trade deadline, has played very well. Now, giving up Norris for him, I don't know, but Norris maybe wasn't working out because of the dressing room, right? But I expected more from a lot of these guys. Like David Palan's playing good. St. Pinto started the year good, then he cooled way off. Jacobs Michael Amaggio, he's played good for what he is. Nick Cousins played good. Like, where's the odd little white spot here? But I think the biggest reason why this team has failed is because they did nothing in the offseason. So, like, okay, we had a mediocre team that made the playoffs and got eliminated in the first round. What are we going to do? Bring it back. Bring it back. Well, you're not going to have any different results. What are we doing here? So, all those reasons, I'm giving this team an F because I do remember F is in the alphabet.
Everyone's four-letter word starts with F. I'll go next on the grading system here, and I give Ottawa a C- because I think they've had bigger issues on and off the ice than the Toronto Maple Leafs had to deal with. And I mean, again, I look at roster potential, right? I think Ottawa's roster, they don't have an Austin Matthews and a William Nylander. You can go on about Tkachuk all you want. On a pure skill level, he's nowhere near those two guys. And I think with Ottawa, I agree with Dan, they should have done more in the offseason, but I still thought they'd be a playoff, another wild card season this year. So for me, it's a C-. I'm disappointed, but I think they have to buy and try to get this up. So when we go into a playoff preview, we can say, hey, the team ended up getting a touchdown at the deadline to make a big difference. Yes.
I forgot to give my grade, by the way. I'll just.
What's your grade, Lane?
C+. I'll give it before Adam goes. I forgot.
I totally forgot as well. I'm giving a C. I'm going to give the same grade I give the Leafs, which is a C+. I think I only give it because I think their issues were stuff out of their control. Mm-hmm. Like I think a lot of like out of their control, meaning like Allmark's mental health issues, Brady Tkachuk being injured. Well, that's kind of, I don't know. You can't really blame that on the organization, but like Brady Tkachuk being injured, and like it's just. Just poor decision making, I think, at times as well from Ottawa. Yeah, like I think you can put some blame on that on the organization, but I think a lot of their issues have come from outside of like the actual outside issues that were out of their like the GM and the owner and all those guys, like all of stuff out of their control. And I think it kind of just sucks for them, but it's not been a good season for them. I don't think they've been worse than the Leafs per se. There's another team in this division that I think have had it worse than them. Mm-hmm. But you know what? It's been a weird season.
But I gotta say, there was one thing I forgot to say with my point that is very interesting. The other reason why I give this team a fail too is because not even the on ice or in locker room is the business standpoint of the hockey club. There's been so much talk going on in the city of Ottawa. If we're going, we knew releasing the building and where we're going to move the building and building this new building. And we've been talking about this forever, it feels like. And I guess they can't help all of it, but I feel like we can do something more to speed up the situation. I'm not an expert in it, so maybe I shouldn't give an opinion.
They already have their arena deal. They have their arena deal already.
I just feel like it's the big distraction, though, for the team.
They've already wrapped it up, though, Dan.
But I think Dan means not even just this season. I think he means over the last couple years in general.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying
to say. I would say the same thing I'd say about CFO expansion. Just shut up until it happens.
Yeah, right? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do think that's an interesting point. But I want to move on now to the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, yes.
You might have noticed we're doing the Canadian teams first in this division. And
why not?
Montreal is, I would say, buying but not selling the entire farm to do it right now. When I look at the Montreal Canadiens, I think they're a good team. I think they have a lot of young talent. But do I think they're winning a Stanley Cup this year? Absolutely not. I don't think they're at that level with the goaltending they have, plus the lack of experience bottom six. I don't see this team going on a deep run. However, I see this team making the playoffs and making it around further than last year. So if you can trade a Patrick Laine and a draft pick to bring in Bobby McMahon out of Toronto, or for just as an example, I'm not saying that's what they're going to do, or call St. Louis and say, hey, what do we have to trade to get Jordan Binnington? And maybe if it's Anderson, and a second round pick, you're okay with doing that.
I was supposed to say that.
But if you're Montreal, like, I think there's a lot of prospects. Like, I think that Haig is a guy that you 100% are not moving right now. So that's why I say they're buyer-ish. They're not like a team that I think has a legitimate chance of winning a Stanley Cup. I even think adding Jordan Binnington, who's a guy that's known for making big saves in big moments, I don't think he makes you a cup contender. But I do think Montreal is in a stage where they need to start showing the players that they have that they believe in them. So when I look at Montreal, I think they're a team that has improved from last year. They look better. Their young talent has gotten better. So I'm going to give my grade now this time instead of going to the very end and then coming back to the grade. If I'm the Montreal Canadiens, I'm at a B++. Just on the cover of not getting to an A-. I think this team has done really well. If goaltending was better this year, it would be an A- for me. But I think with the goaltending being really suspect, considering they called up Fowler out of desperation to try to stabilize the net, I think Montreal is not at a point yet where I can feel like this is a team that's a cup contender. So that's where I'm at. Mr. Moore, for your money. Let's jump the order this time here.
I like it. Okay. Well, it pains me to say as a Maple Leaf fan, I'm giving this team an A+. I think Martin St. Louis has proven me wrong that he is a great hockey coach. I think for young players like Nick Suzuki, Lane Hudson, Cole Caulfield, even Sikorsky and Dantonov have really stepped it up to be franchise guys. So you talk about the Maple Leafs and their Cole 4 and the Cole 5. I think it really be saying about Montreal any minute now. They got their core group, and good on them for drafting those guys, being smart and all that. And the other thing is they made the move the offseason that had to be made by getting Nolan Dobson. And even some fill-in pieces like Oliver Kapanen. I didn't even know who he was, really. He's played really well. You look at Alex Texier. I didn't really know anything about him. He's played really well. So they got some key players. The thing that they have to figure out is I do think they need another goaltender because I think the goaltenders are a little young. I love the Jordan Binnington idea. And you got a couple, I would call them pylons on your roster. You got guys like Patrick Laine, Brandon Gallagher, Josh Anderson, that's taking a lot of salary cap, is not getting a lot of points for dollar. So if you can move some of those pieces on the trade deadline, bring in some more value to the roster, I think this is a very serious team right here.
So what's your grade then, Dan, on this team?
A+.
Wow. So you're saying, and then I'll move on to either Lane or Adam. You're saying you think if you get this team a goalie, they're a cup contender.
I think they're that close. I really do. Wow. I think they got the pieces that they had to get. They got great young guys who've been in. Don't forget, Nick Suzuki and Caulfield were key parts in those playoff ones with Carey Price and Say Weber in a fake hockey year, right? So they got experience of doing the playoffs. You got Sikorsky that's dominating in the Olympics. How much more experience is that giving to him? You got Lane Hudson, who is now a franchise player in his second year. Whoever saw that coming. You got Dantonov that can arguably win Rookie of the Year. I think this team is this good.
Wow. Let's see if everyone else agrees.
I doubt
Mr. Dashko.
He might be crazy. I'm with Dan here. I don't know. I had to just have to miss like 30 seconds, but I'm giving this team an A because you look at their roster and they don't have Leon Draisaitl. They don't have Connor McDavid. They don't have an Austin Matthews. They don't have a top 5 guy who's considered. But what this team does with the talent that it has, how young it is, how hungry it is, how much work that Martin St. Louis has put into this team to put up guys who are in their first few years really getting going. Even a guy like Yaroslav Slavkovsky, that guy takes a lot of crap for being a first overall pick, but I think even here in the Olympics is going to really build on him. I think he's going to come back a lot stronger. This team is really talented, and they really rely on each other. They really play as a unit, and I love to see it. And I do think this team, give them a Jordan Binnington, give them a veteran goalie that can help them when they need help, when they need that game to win there. They need that little experience that doesn't have to rely on Sam Montembeault. They can kind of go to someone with a bit more vet, or even a Jonathan Quick, someone who's on the Rangers, I think would be a great addition to this team.
Okay.
Just for some veteran leadership to kind of help these young guys. But I really like what this team's done. It's been a team that's really turned around in the last years. From a team that was, just barely getting by and having to rely on point percentages to get in because of the whole COVID situation where they shouldn't have been there. But this team has really rebounded in the last years with Martin St. Louis turning this franchise around. And I really love. I don't even love the Montreal, but I love what they've done. And I think it's amazing. So I'm giving them an A, and I think they should 100% buy.
Wow. Okay, so we have two people saying cup contender, me saying progressing well but not there yet, buying passively. Mr. Walsh. All right, well, I'm sorry, you don't like your last name apparently.
Why not? It's a nice name.
Well,
Adam Frank Steve the Third.
Oh my gosh.
What's your thoughts here?
So, I like Montreal. I love the team that they built. I disagree.
Like the last name.
I disagree with Lane and I disagree with Dan. I held this opinion last season, and I thought they went to the playoffs a year too early, as they were then shown as they were shown by Washington what it takes to win a playoff series. It wasn't a particularly close series. It seemed at times, at least some of the games were close, but Washington showed exactly why they were one of the better teams in the league last season. And I will say, I don't think Montreal is necessarily they're a very, I don't know what the word is to use, but they're a very passive buyer. I said this a couple weeks ago, and I will continue to say it until the deadline. I do not believe they should go and get a goalie, because I do not believe I do not believe they are I don't think they necessarily need a goalie. I do think they've been able to survive on mediocre goaltending. That's just fair enough. Their offense is fine. I don't think they need to add anything offensively because they have the third most goals in the league right now. They are dynamite. They are one of the better goal scoring teams in the league. And I think the issue is defensively / goaltending, but I don't think it's a necessary issue now because as you guys have all mentioned Jordan Binnington's name, I disagree. I didn't say it in my Ottawa when I was talking about Ottawa. I disagree you should go to Ottawa, and I disagree you should go to Montreal. I don't think Montreal needs a Jordan Binnington because I think if you acquire Jordan Binnington, you got to do a deep run. You have to. You're kind of in that situation at this point. And I think Montembeault, I just don't think they need to do it now. And I think their GM is very good. I think he will do the appropriate thing to do at the deadline, which I personally, in my opinion, I think it's hold. You don't need a goalie at this point. I don't think it's they need a goalie, but they don't need it now. They are young. They are one of the younger. No, they don't need a goal. They do not need to acquire a goalie right now. There is no need to acquire it now. That is what I am saying. They need a goalie, but they do not need to do it now. They do not need to do it at the deadline, and they do not need to do it this season. They are 20. Their average age is 26. They are full of young superstars. They have a very good young core of Cole Caulfield. He's 25. Kirby Dach, despite his injuries, he's only 25, of course. You have Demidov, who's 20. Jacob Dobish, who's 24. You have Noah Dobson, who's only 26. Same thing with Nick Suzuki. Their captain is 26. Joe Veleno's 26. Arbor Xhekaj is 25. Newhook, 25. Slavkovsky, 21. I think they need to make some moves to move some pieces. I think Laine's gone at the deadline. I'm pretty sure they've been rumored. It's been rumored they're looking to move on from him. Gallagher might be somebody they look at just because of his salary. But I think maybe you add a piece defensively, but I don't think a goaltender is necessary because they will not go on. I think their goal should be improvement, which would be the second round. You can look to the Stars and want to go on a cup run, but I don't think there's necessarily a need to push and ruin what you have built so far on pushing to go on a deep run at this point with such a young core. But I love their team. I think they've survived on mediocre goalie, as I've said before. They have the 23rd worst, like they've conceded. They're 23rd in the league in goals allowed. They have not been great goaltending wise this year. But you have good young goaltending. Like, I don't think it's necessary. And I give them an A.
What's your grade then, Adam?
It's an A. It's an A. They've had a phenomenal. This is. I expected them to actually regress. I didn't expect them to have. I expected them to make the playoffs, but I didn't expect them to be as good. Well, not like I expected, not regression, but maybe like be around what they were, which was they struggled to make the playoffs. It was kind of an up and down year for them last year, but they have exceeded what I expected them to be at this point. Like, to be at 72 points and to be the third best team in the division right now was a surprise to me. But I do think they have to be very cautious buying this deadline. If they're going to buy, they got to be cautious about it, because I don't think you should sell the farm, because they have a lot of good young pieces coming up.
Yeah, I think Adam and I are kind of on one side of the fence. Dan and Lane are at the other. It'll be interesting to see once we get to our deadline preview show later on in March, or I guess early March, where we're all thinking. But now let's go to a team that I think we can probably all agree on. We may not take as much time with them, and that's the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think when you look at the Tampa Bay Lightning, this team is probably, I would say, the best comeback team in the NHL this year. I thought this team was going to take a huge regression, and they're a cup contender. So I think you are selling anything you have that can make this team better, whether it's adding a little bit more depth to the defense, whether it's finding that key third line center they seem to get every year. They go on a cup run. Maybe it's Scott Laughton out of Toronto. Like, I think the Tampa Bay Lightning have to be extremely aggressive, because I think this team is, truthfully, they're my favorite out of the East right now to win the Stanley Cup. So for me, A++, best team, and they are selling anything feasible to make this team a cup contender. Mr. Lane Dashco, what's your thought?
100% the same. Like, Andre Vasilevsky is back. That's all that really matters with this team. This team revolves around Andre Vasilevsky, and unfortunately, he had those bad few years there, but he's bounced right back. He's once again one of the best goalies. I think this team can be deep. They've seemed to have found their magic again. John Cooper's an incredible coach. Seems to know what he's doing. I think this team is going to be right back there in the hunt in the Eastern Final. So 100% A+, and I think they should buy to try to win another Stanley Cup, because they're right there.
Mr. More for your money.
Yes, sir.
What's your thoughts? Are you agreeing with Lane and I so far?
Well, 100%. I don't see how there's any controversy with this team. I give them an A+. They fell off the bandwagon a little bit past couple of years, but I feel like they're back, baby. Vasilevsky's played incredible, and you gotta say their backup, Jonas Johnson, he's got to be one of the best backups in the NHL. Right? No, he's not a Vasilevsky, but he's someone you can confidently put in there. You got Nikita Kucherov, Jake Gensel, Brandon Hagel, franchise players. The move that Lane loves, Darren Radis. What an amazing pickup this was. Okay, He got him from nowhere. He got him for a minimum league contract, basically. Gets paid under $1 million, and he is now, one of the best players in the one of the best defensemen in the NHL. He basically drafted him and built him into a franchise player. Yeah, it took him a little bit more seasons than what a rookie would become, but he got it done. Then you got veterans who are not playing amazing, like Brandon Point and Anthony Cirelli, Oliver Bustrak, Yanni Gorg, but they're the type of guys that have been there. If they've won the cups, they got it done, and then they get better. You got guys like J.J. Morser and Pokus Holberg from the Leafs. Some nice, they weren't crazy off-season moves, but they were enough moves that needed to bad death to this team. And that's exactly what they did. And they got Ryan Medeiros back, who is one of my favorite defensemen in the NHL. I think one of the best set-down defensemen in the league, way up there, Drew Doughty. Like, this team is built to win another Stanley Cup. A+.
What's your thoughts, Adam? I know you said you're grade, but like, is it kind of the same
A++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++ season. I don't think they've been as good. Of course, they've been up and down. But let's talk about the numbers here. They are ridiculously very good.
Yeah.
But they're top 5 in goals, top 5 in goals against. They're 12th in their power play, 4th in penalty kill again. Their penalty kill is ridiculous every year. But they had a 7-game and an 11-game win streak. They were undefeated for a while as well. Like this team, they've had 2 4-game losing streaks all season. Like it's ridiculous. But like Point missed 18 games. Hedman's missed 34. McDonough's missed 33.
Hedman, yeah.
Saranac, probably pronouncing his last name wrong. He's missed 19 games. Kuch and Hagel each missed games. But like Darren Radish is playing 22 minutes and 33 seconds a game, a career high for him. A defenseman who's probably on your second or third pairing. He's stepped up and had a phenomenal season. Like Hagel's had a good season again, despite missing a couple games. Jay Getzel's had a good season, but again, Kucherov, 31 points ahead of his teammate. This guy does not get enough credit.
No,
he doesn't seem to care about much else but hockey.
Yeah.
You can tell when he goes to the All-Star game that man does not care about the All-Star game at all. I hate when he does it because it looks bad. But like he is ridiculously talented. He had a rough start to this year, but he turned it up about 100 different notches. And well, of course, Vasilevsky's back. I think he is still the best goalie in the world. And I don't think there's much debate about it in my eyes. And I think it's just, this Tampa Bay team just looks, again, so very dangerous. And I think they're buyers. If they can buy anything, buy. But I do think once everybody's back and healthy, fully healthy, like Hedman just came back recently, literally just before we went to break, when he came back for the outdoor game. But this is another phenomenal team who made, again, a lot of phenomenal decisions. And I'm calling it now John Cooper's coach of the year. I don't think there's anybody else you can name who has had as much impact for this team as John Cooper should have won it a decade ago. He's still not a coach of the year. He still has not won Jack Adams Trophy. And I think he deserves it. He's deserved it for a while. And I think it'll be highway robbery if that man retires, never having won a Jack Adams Trophy, given the coaching career he's had in Tampa.
Oh, 100%. I mean, John Cooper is arguably, this era's greatest coach ever. But it's interesting. We're all in agreement on Tampa, which I think was pretty easy. But now I want to go to a team that's a little bit harder to make the decision. And that is the Buffalo Sabres. Now, when I look at the Sabres, they make me think that you should
subscribe to our channel.
But also, you have to look at what this team has done. And you know how I said I think you have to show some faith in the Montreal players and you need to go buy? I think Buffalo is in the same situation because this team has taken so long to click and it's finally clicking. I mean, the goal horn isn't stopping all night in Buffalo. They've been scoring at a high rate. Tage Thompson looks like the guy that I've been saying I wanted the Leafs to get for years. And the Buffalo Sabres team, I think, is the real deal. So I think if you can buy without selling the whole farm, like maybe I'd be okay at Buffalo trading some draft picks. Like I don't think you want to trade everything to go get like a rental player for 1 year. But if you can do a sign and trade on some guys or a guy that you think can be with your team for at least another 2 seasons, like this season and next, I think the Buffalo Sabres need to do it. I think they are meeting expectations. And actually, I'm giving the Buffalo Sabres an A-. I love what this team has done this year. I love that after they went on the hot run, they were able to sustain it. And maybe you guys think I'm absolutely crazy, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts on that. But I really think the Buffalo Sabres are right now, out of those bubble teams, I think they're the best bubble team. Mr. Moore, for your money, what's your thoughts here? Do you think I'm overselling the Sabres, or do you think I'm right on the money, whether you can look out a window or not, as Joffrey Lupul says?
I love that comment. I was going to take that, but hey, you took it from me. It's awesome. I think you're pretty well dead on. I think Buffalo has been building through the draft, because let's be honest, you can't do it through free agency because no one wants to go over. So we're building through the draft for a long time now, and finally, the guys are stepping up. You have some nice veterans in there we've added, like Alex Tuck and and then that trade from Ottawa, Josh Norris, he's fit really nicely there. He was just injured a lot in the year, but now that he's going to be good to go, hopefully, that's a big boost to your team. Tage Thompson has now developed into a franchise player. I think Buffalo is going to make the playoffs this year. I'm very confident in that. I am not confident that this team's going to make a cup one. There's a lot of these guys, it's their first playoff appearance, right? They got some decent goaltending. That's good too. They didn't really do a whole lot in the offseason. This is it's like the opposite of Ottawa. They bring it back. It did nothing in the offseason. And they somehow got a completely different result. So power to them. But considering I think they ran a little luck, they kept the streak going. They didn't keep the streak going, obviously. We did lose. But they attained playing good hockey after the streak. So I think they are buyers at the deadline. And I'm going to give them a B, a very solid B.
Now you sound like Anthony Fantana, the internet's busiest music nerd. A solid B. Lane's going to get the polite C.
Okay.
No idea. But Lane, what's your thoughts on the Buffalo Sabres?
Well, how do you not? I mean, I just out of pure excitement, how do you not give this team like an S+? This team has missed the playoffs since has last played when I was a 7-year-old child. Like, come on, man! Like, this is an S+.
Making me feel old, Lane.
I was still learning to walk when this team last made the playoffs, but nonetheless. But in all seriousness, no, this is an S+, right? It's exciting, right? Like, this poor team Buffalo has been bad for just so many years, and so many things has gone wrong. They had the Jack Eichel situation. You had this situation. You had complaints about the windows. You had players not come here. You had all these players that you tried to build around leave. You got players who don't want to be here. Nobody wants to play in Buffalo. Nobody wants to build here. And after all this time, all this struggle, you're finally in a spot where you're going to make the playoffs and be a credible team. It's an S+. I hope they can buy, and I hope this team we can finally see the Buffalo Sabres in the playoffs, because all power to them.
Yeah, Lane's even more excited about the Buffalo Sabres than I am, and I thought you guys were going to all say I'm out to lunch. So, Mr. Adam Steve Frank III, when you look at the Buffalo Sabres, are you on Dan's side thinking, they're good, but B still really solid, but because of certain things, you can't put them in the A or S category? Or are you in that AS category, or are you lower than Dan and you think the Sabres are crap? What's your thoughts?
I think the Buffalo's had such a weird season. I can't give them an A because they were before their 21-5-2 run heading into the break, they were 11-14-4. They weren't particularly great. It was I like to call it just a very Buffalo season is how I would describe it, because you could literally just call it a very Sabre season. So it's definitely not an A for them, because they've been good, but they haven't been great. And they, again, haven't been convincing. They're a phenomenal, their team on paper is a playoff team. It has been for at least 4 or 5 years now. In my opinion, they've wasted Rasmus Dahlin so far. They've wasted Tage Thompson. They've wasted other very talented players. They've wasted them because they've just continued to fail to build the team around them. So for them, they're a B for me. And I think it becomes interesting because I think they may have to buy because of the amount of times they've missed the playoffs at this point with the team they have. I feel like they have to make the playoffs with the way they performed heading into the deadline. Like, I think they have to maybe go in and get goaltending help, especially after UPL's injury. But they're very good. They've been good for since game 30, whatever it was, December. They've been phenomenal. I think they may just struggle to make the playoffs because I continue to say this. It's Buffalo have been so good now for the last 2 months of the season. But like, it always is in the back of my head is, when is this going to fall off the rails again? Like it has every single season. They never fails. They always win. They always have a nice winning streak and then they fall apart because that's just what Buffalo does. No offense to Sabres fans, but it is just what Buffalo do. Buffalo never stay and sustain their runs of excellence. They just don't do it. And they haven't for a decade plus now since drafting Jack Eichel. They just cannot seem to continue to jump over these hills. I do think they should go out and buy. What they go out and buy will be interesting. And whether they sell Alex Tuch again will be interesting. But yeah, they're a B for me. I don't think the full season consistency has been there. And I still think their start lingers in the back of my head, which they slowly started and it just took until their GM got fired in December for them to fix it. But
I think one thing I forgot to say about Buffalo, great points, Adam, but the other success story is Buffalo Sabres is Shane Doan's son, Josh Doan. He's really made it to another level, which I expect he was going to be good, but he has the potential to be like a Matthew Knives good, where he be potential to be as good as his dad, right? I think the contract they gave him is ridiculous, but hopefully it works out because he's the missing piece this Buffalo Sabres team needed desperately. That's what was, they got him halfway through the year last year. He was still a young player, but he really grew a lot. So, yeah, I just want to add that quickly.
Absolutely. So let's move on to a team that I think we're going to have a very different conversation about, and that's the Florida Panthers.
Oh, boy.
Now,
I have my grade. This was bad.
I don't have much to say about the Florida Panthers, so let me just get it out of the way. This team has been a total disaster between, poor defensive play, rants that don't make any sense, not realizing that you can't replace Barkov with Marchand. His team has just been a total dumpster fire. I think this team needs to sell. I don't think this year's a fluke. I think they're too old. I think they are built to win in the playoffs, but forgot they need to win in the regular season to get there. This team for me is a D-. They are the worst team in the Atlantic, in my opinion, by what I expected them to be capable of. Stanley Cup Finals 3 straight years in a row, and this year they're not even. I would be shocked if they make the playoffs. I even wonder, like, in the off season, are they going to be talking about firing the coach, firing the GM, trying to move on from
firing Maurice? Are you crazy?
I'm not crazy. This year's been a total disaster. I think it's more on the general manager from looking and thinking a defense that can't move and losing Sasha Barkov. The team was going to be fine. But at the end of the day, this team has been a complete and utter disaster. This team sucks. Your best players are Sam Bennett, Kachuk, who I think is better at whining than playing hockey, and Brad Marchand. When Brad Marchand is not your biggest whiner on your team, you probably have an issue. And you've clearly seen two things. Number one, this team is too old and too slow. Number two, everyone underestimated how good Sasha Barkov actually is when they were looking at this team. So for me, this team's terrible. If this team may lose to some AHL teams. I have zero interest in this Florida Panthers team. Mr. Adams, since you've been going last lately, you can go first or second, I guess, because I went first.
Florida, I think this has been as Lane gave the Leafs an F, I think the only team who gets an F in this division is Florida, because let's be frank, the Leafs would
Hi,
never,
Frank.
I don't think. Oh my gosh. Okay, really, Jacob.
I knew that was coming.
But Florida. But I know I shouldn't have even said it.
Yeah, literally.
Florida,
you should have known better.
Florida have performed to their expectations. They're an F. I don't think there's been a team like to what they were expected to be. They have been the worst. I get the injury to Tkachuk sucks. He's only played 10 games, and he's put up 8 points. But again, your big boys, of their top 10 point getters, none of them are positive. None of them of their plus minus is positive. Now, of course, I've always said that is more on everybody around you. But again, when your top 10 guys are all negatives, that shows a sign that this team just hasn't been playing well. I think, again, it's just Bobrovsky doesn't care about the regular season as much as I think he cares about the playoffs. He kind of just coasts through the regular season now at his older age. I think Florida have been the most disappointing team. Losing Barkov, I thought a lot of Florida Panthers fans thought they could survive without Alexander Barkov, which I think is a gross misrepresentation of who, in my opinion, undisputedly, since Mr. What's his face? I can't remember his name now. This is so bad. The Bergeron retired.
Yeah.
Alexander Barkov is the best and is the premier two-way centerman in the NHL.
You could argue Crosby, but sure.
I will not argue Sidney Crosby in this sense. I will go straight out and say Sasha Barkov is the best. Jacob, this is not an argument about the best two-way centerman, but Sasha Barkov, in my opinion, is the best two-way centerman in hockey. He is elite defensively. He is elite offensively at times. He is a phenomenal player. I think he is heavily underrated, just the same as Kucherov is. And I just think that Florida very much misses their captain more than they missed Tkachuk.
Yeah.
And I think that if this team makes the playoffs, they might be in for a rude awakening, especially if, Barkov is skating, which I don't even understand why that man is skating when he tore his ACL and MCL. I do wonder if they do. I think if they are to make the playoffs, they have to buy. I don't think they have much of a choice. I think exactly what happened to Tampa after they went to 3 straight finals is happening now to Florida, which is they have learned that you can't go on 3 straight runs and not be exhausted. This has been an F season for them. It has been they are not too far out of the playoffs. It's not impossible for them to not make the playoffs, but it doesn't look great. And I think they have failed up. They have not lived up to their expectations. And that might be because somebody who should just be a third line center is currently their top center in Antoine Lundell.
Right. Yeah. 100%.
Done.
Yeah. Who's going next?
Well, dude, you started talking, so.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Social Power Ranger.
So I was enjoying Adam's points. We're agreeing with him on the Panthers. Basically, it's tough. You can't blame for Panthers or Tkachuk's injury and Barkov's injury, but the issue is they didn't bring anyone in to replace those guys, right? You gotta give them a lot of credit that they were able to keep Marchand, Ekblad, and Bennett out of cap-friendly contracts. That's an incredible job what they did. But they didn't really do anything else. They brought in, Jeff Petrie, with no disrespect. He was a great guy a couple of years ago.
Another defenseman who can't move.
Yeah, it's really the only move that they made. Now, in argument's sakes, they've won 2 Stanley Cups. So you look at this team, maybe they didn't have to make moves. But here we are. And Adam took the words out of my mouth. The past 3 years, they made the 3 Stanley Cup finals. So they've all played well with the same core, mind you. So that same core has played 100+ games in each year for the past 3 years. And you calculate the regular season plus playoff ones, plus 4 nations, plus Olympics, plus preseason games, whatever, plus. They've all played 300 plus games in over the past 3 years. So I can't really give this team an F because they did what they had to do. They kept the pieces that got them to Stanley Cup finals and 3 straight playoff finals. They kept the Conn Smythe winner. They kept the Vezina winner, right? So you can't really give the team an F, but I'm going to give it a D plus. I mean, I think they're a little bit better than the Maple Leafs because I have a sense this group has got it done. So if any team is going to make the playoffs, it will be this group. I just personally, with the injuries of Barkov and everything, even if they make the playoffs or not, I don't see them winning anything without Barkov. So believe it or not, if I was Florida Panthers, I would sell at this point. Which I know is crazy. I know it's crazy, but you got some good pieces. I think I would keep the core of like Bennett and Kachuk and now Marchand and Ekblad and Barkov and Bobrovsky. But you got some really good supporting staff in Florida that's kind of aged now because they played 300 plus games, right? Maybe sell those guys to do what Boston did last year. It's exactly what Florida has to do this year.
What, make Toronto do really stupid trades to give them Fraser Minton for nothing?
Yeah, basically, yeah. They gotta trade some veteran guys that someone's going to overpay for and get some sweeper prospect in the AHL that no one knows about. That's exactly what Florida has to do this trade deadline. How do they do it? I don't know. That's how they gotta do.
We'll save the argument for another day, but Aaron Ekblad should be moved, even though I don't think he can be because of no move clauses. But that would be the piece if I was Florida that I would desperately be trying to move on from. Mr. Dashko.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I'm definitely giving this team, it's hard not to give them an F either just because of what's been going on with this franchise. But at the same time, like Dan said, if there's one team that's somehow going to feel it, if there's one team who's going to sneak in, it's going to be this team. Because that championship pedigree, they're the reason why they call them the Rats, right? You can try to call the exterminator, you can try to do whatever you can try to call him, but the Rats will show up and they'll still be there. You can set the traps and think you got them all. There's still one sticking around. And this team is pesky, and now they got Matthew Tkachuk back, and I'm actually kind of annoyed that he's back and playing so good because I think he's going to actually add some fire in the second half of this season. Especially this whole Olympic, getting back into his ways and kind of getting back into game shape again. I think this is actually the worst thing the NHL could ask for because if you had a regular season, right, Matthew Tkachuk wouldn't be getting back to the same pace. But these Olympic games, because they're so heightened and they're so much bigger, the stage is bigger, they want to win. It's catching him up faster than you were just to play regular games at, games 50 to 62 might not be there, but because he's playing in such an elite, talented tournament, I think it's going to raise his bar from being that kind of not game ready to getting more middle season ready, which is where I think Florida's going to need him. So I think they should. I think they're actually in a good position to buy because I do think this team can turn it around. I think Bobrovsky, big game, he's gonna come in clutch at the end of the season. So that's what I'm saying.
Wow, I like.
What was your letter grade again, Lane? I'm sorry, I might have missed it.
I'm saying D, but I'm saying they could turn it into a B. I think they could.
You know what? It's very easy to turn a D into a B. You just put a line in the middle if it's a capital at least. But okay, so now let's move on to a team that I hate to say how they've been doing, and that's the Boston Bruins. I really thought the Bruins retool was going to fail as much as I didn't like the Carlo Mitten trade for Toronto. Boston, as long as Jeremy Swayman is not distracted by any large monitors in the regular season, I don't know if you guys heard his quote or not about letting in the goal from center ice. They should be good. And I think Boston is a team that they're built to win in the playoffs. I think they're going to get there. I think Boston's got to buy. I think they need to add some secondary scoring, and I think they're looking for another defenseman. You know what? Why don't the Leafs just trade Brandon Carlo back to Boston? We'll take Fraser back. I kid. But In all honesty, maybe they do call Toronto about a Brandon Carlo back again if it's for that first round draft pick you want back so badly. Or, maybe you are calling Florida about some of the 18,000 defensemen who can't move. Or you're calling Vancouver about a Brock Besser to add some secondary scoring. But when I look at the Boston Bruins, I actually think they're a cup contender. I think they're a team that could maybe surprise someone out of the East. I know that means they got to get through Tampa, which is going to be very difficult. But I'm giving this Boston team an A-. I really like it. I hate saying I like this Boston team. It hurts me as much as when I said I thought Hamilton could win a Grey Cup last year. I was very happy to be wrong. Sorry, Lane. But then you stole Winton McManus from me. And now you get to laugh at me because you got Winton McManus from me.
Oh my God.
But A- to me for the Boston Bruins. I really like what they've done this year. I think this roster has played above expectations. I think guys like Fraser Minton has turned out to be a phenomenal addition. Zadorov has really done well on the back end. You have good goaltending in Swayman and Korpisalo. I really like this Bruins team, and I think they're a team that they can get into the dance. I think that they could go on a run. You also got Morgan Geekie, who's turning out to be an elite goal scorer.
Yeah, who's on that bingo card?
Actually, I did. I said going into this year, I thought Morgan Geekie was going to have a really strong season. But
okay, well,
I play bingo every Tuesday. But you know what I mean. Mr. Lane.
Yes, sir.
You just turned on a vacuum.
I don't know.
A vacuum?
I think Dan just turned on the air mattress because he's getting
excited
about the Bruins.
I heard that too. It sounded like a boat coming in on the Hamilton Harbor or something.
But what are your thoughts, Lane?
For Boston, definitely an A for sure. Because again, like you said, Jeremy Swayman's, credit to. I told you guys were like, just Jeremy Swayman's guys. I'm like, no, that's just what happens when you sit out a year. Like when you don't go to training camp. We've seen it from every player when they missed that training camp for some reason. They just messed up your. I never had a doubt that Jeremy Swayman wasn't an elite goalie. And Pasternak's good. This team's good. I definitely think this team could add. And because they're so pesky, this is a team that I can go deep in the playoffs because they play that playoff-like style. So, yeah, A-.
Mr. Frank Adam Steve III.
Oh,
he still answers either way.
Okay, really, Jacob? I kept my bias out on Florida, and I'm going to keep my bias out on ball. I disagree with Jacob and Lane. I don't think this team is. I think, and I'm going to say it again because I really do believe this. Boston have overperformed their expectations. I think Boston have overperformed what they were expected to be. I think Swayman's a good goalie. I think he's about performing where he should be performing. I don't think their backup goalie. I don't think Korpisalo is like that guy. Not that guy. He doesn't have to be. I think they need to upgrade their backup goalie if they're gonna do anything. I think they really missed out on acquiring the big defenseman in Rasmus Anderson. They really missed out on acquiring him. And I think that piece would have been big for them. I think that would have – I think if anything, that move would have pushed them, in my mind, that would have made them – would have secured in my mind that they could make the playoffs because of how good Rasmus Anderson is. Mm-hmm. And I think him and Charlie McAvoy, that makes a good portion of your defensive core right there. I think those two are phenomenal. I just think this team has been very up and down this year. I think Morgan Geekie is heavily, and I will say it, I think he has outplayed what Morgan Geekie is as a player. I don't think okay, I'm just being perfectly honest. Morgan Geekie plays with David Pastrnak, guys. It's the same thing I think with Zach Hyman. Zach Hyman would never score 50 goals on any other team in the league except for the Edmonton Oilers. And I'm going to say it. But Morgan Geekie does not score. If you disagree with me, you're crazy. Morgan Geekie does not score 30-plus goals if he doesn't play with David Pastrnak. Or he doesn't play on Edmonton. Or he maybe doesn't play on the top line with Kucherov. Like, Morgan Geekie is the player he is today because he plays with David Pastrnak, who's one of the best players in the league. He's a top 15 player in the league. that is the reason Morgan Geekie is the player Morgan Geekie is. Like, you would be crazy to think otherwise. Like Charlie McAvoy having another very good season. He's missed games with injuries. I think Pavel Zacha being out injured will hurt them.
Yeah, that's true.
Like that's a big miss for them.
That is true.
I just don't think this Bruins team is as good as apparently you and Jacob, you and Lane think they are. I think because I continue to think this, I think there'll be a fall off from them, and I think there'll be a little bit of a fall off from the next team will do.
If they're the fall off, then they get to be J. Cole.
I just think they haven't made the moves necessary in the offseason, or they haven't made them necessary so far, and I don't think they can make them at the deadline that will make them into a playoff team. I think this team is heavily reliant on David Pastrnak and Morgan Geekie offensively. And I think that could be a major problem in the playoffs when any good defensive team can just shut down your top line. Where else is your damn offense going to come from? Except for your two big guys who are on the same damn line, mind you. Like, there you go. That's just my thought process on them.
What's your grade?
B.
It's a B. Mr. Moore.
They've been all right.
Money.
Yes, sir.
Are you team Jacob and Lane? Are you team Adam? Are you all idiots and the Bruins are either the best team in the league or the worst team in the league?
I'm team Jacob and Lane in this one. I think Boston really figure it out. I think Koposalo is a nice, decent backup. I think Jeremy Swayman has improved this year over last year. I do agree with Adam Morgan-Geekie's not a 40-goal scorer in every teams, but he is probably a 20-goal scorer in every teams, and he's filling in the role nicely. And I really like the fact the moves that Boston did in the offseason. They didn't do anything crazy, but they did enough to make this team better. No one talks about it, but I think Victor Albertson, I said it in the offseason, I think it's one of the best signings made this offseason, period. You got him for $4 million. And what is he doing for $4 million? He is bringing you great second line, second depth scoring so many teams like the Leafs and whoever is missing. You know, Victor Albertson's got 28 points so far in 45 games plus 8. That's a great $4 million player. As a grade, and of course you got to say that with Alex Steeves, very nice deal, minimum league contract. AHL legend for the Maoris. Now is a very solid third liner for the Bruins with, 16 points or so. Fraser Mitten, if it wasn't for the super rookies like Dantonoff and Safer, could it be in the Rookie of the Year conversation? He's played extremely well.
He is in the Rookie of the Year conversation, actually, by a lot of analysts.
For this team, right? But I'm only giving this team an A- and not an A, because there's one giant gap that no one talked about that shocked me. In my opinion, the giant gap in this Boston Bruins team is a top line center. They lost Patrice Bergeron. They never replaced him. They got Lindholm, which on paper looked like he could replace Patrice Bergeron. They gave him $9 million with a $7.5 million cap hit. And I think besides Jonathan Huberdeau, it is the worst contract in the NHL. And I think that's why his team's A-. I do not see this team winning a Stanley Cup or making a deep playoff one with him as your number one center. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel.
Morgan Geekie, I think, is their top line center.
No, he's a winger.
Plays with Pat. Geekie's a center, Dan. Geekie is his natural position is a centerman.
Okay, well, I still
he may not play it, but he is naturally. I'm pretty sure he's a center, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I think he's playing wing as a Blue, and I could be wrong.
Maybe Zacha is their top line center, but
Geekie, your top line in Boston is Geekie, Mark Konchivnovich, and David Pastrnak.
And who's the center?
Mark Kandonovich.
That's my exact
point.
This
is on Daily Faceoff. Your second line center is Fraser Mitten. So yeah,
Zaka would be their second, would
If he
be
was
their
healthy.
top or second line center. I
So
think.
Lindholm
But
is
that top line, you shut down that top line, and like Boston's offense is nothing.
so Lindholm is your third line center.
He's not in the lineup at the moment.
Okay, but if he was in the lineup, right? I mean, he just doesn't have it. I mean, he's maybe a second line center at best. You need a set down defenseman. I mean, centerman, but you need a set down centerman. Can't believe I'm saying this. Like Austin Matthews. You need someone that can play 200 feet, that can still almost give you a point a game, that can give you a 40-goal season. You need someone like Alexander Barkov. And I think that's who you can compare Matthews with, is Alexander Barkov. Even though Matthews hasn't got the championship, everything else, he's very comparable to Barkov. You need a 40-goal guy, 80-point guy, or Sidney Crosby, and this team
Everyone
does
needs
not have it in Lindholm. I don't care what you have to move. I don't care if you have to eat up half his salary. You have to move Lindholm, period.
Wow. I did not expect a Lindholm rant. But now let's move on to the last team in the Atlantic, and that is the Detroit Red Wings. And looking at the Detroit Red Wings here, they're a team that I have bubble cautiously buying because I think you have really talented guys like DeBrincat and Dylan Larkin. I still think Dylan Larkin in the right situation is a 100-point player in the right team. I think this guy's insane. And I look at Dylan Larkin, and you know what? John Gibson's been starting to play a lot better. You have a pretty decent tandem in Gibson and Talbot. I think this is a playoff team, but I'm not comfortable trading a bunch of prospects to try to go on a deep run because I don't see this team going on a super deep run. I think they're a solid team. I think they have a lot of potential, but I don't see them being a team that will win a Stanley Cup. So for me, I'm giving the Detroit Red Wings a B to the minus. I think they're a good team. I think they should buy, but I still think they shouldn't sell the whole farm to do it. Mr. Moore, for your money, what are your thoughts?
I really like what this Detroit team has done. They had goaltending issues. They got Gibson and Talbot, which I know by the numbers they don't look amazing, but you can argue the best goaltender tandem in the league. You got young guys like Waitman and DeBrincat and Larkin have been proven now to be franchise players. Again, that's something you can build on. They did some nice off-season moves with James Van Riemsdyk. There's another one. I don't know why Toronto bought him back. $1 million, and he's got 25 points. I think that's a great move, right?
Yeah,
they got rid of Justin Hall in the AHL finally. Even that improved a lot. You got Sider, who's really proven to be one of the best defensemen in the league. I never thought I would say that, but here we go. So I think this team should buy, and I'm going to give this team a B+. I feel like we're just missing, just some depth, maybe. I don't know. I feel like this team's kind of in a similar situation to Buffalo. But I don't think this team's gonna make a deep playoff one just because these core guys like Larkin, DeBrincat, and Raymond don't have tons of playoff experience, right? I don't know if they ever made a playoffs really with this guy as their core, But I feel like if you could sell some money farm, beat buyers, playoff spot, yeah, I'm going to give this team a B+. I think we've done a good job.
Adam, what's your thoughts on this?
Detroit, it's the same thing I think about Boston. I feel like I expect a little bit of a drop off. They've been very up and down this year. John Gibson heavily struggled to be in this season, but he kind of figured it out now. Where they've been. I think the big thing for Detroit at this point is more consistency. Like their big boys like Larkin, Raymond, both have over 50 plus points at this point. Both nearly have 60. Who else was I thinking of? I do not remember. But like Mo Sider having a great year playing. Pardon me, Jacob.
DeBrincat.
Yes, thank you.
Patty Kane.
Not Patty Kane. I was thinking of DeBrincat because DeBrincat has over 50 points. But I think a big thing for Detroit, which is why they brought these guys in, is that they need more from their depth. guys like JVR, like Patty Kane. Like they need more from their lower down the lineup. They just need more from them. I think their defense is very young. I continue to think that I don't think because I think it's been a thing for Yzerman where he's just pushed always a little bit too much the last couple of years with Detroit, where he's made moves that he didn't need to make. He didn't need to bring in Justin Hall, and he's made moves in which they've needed to, like, they didn't need to desperately make a lot of the moves they've made with Yzerman. I think he's trying to push too much to push them out of this rebuild. And I think, again, I just think they need to be cautious at the deadline because I don't think they need to push anything, except for maybe adding depth to make a little bit of a play to make it. I think consistent play will work. Maybe it's just somebody you bring in that only has a year, like a rental. I think it's their best bet. I don't think you need to bring anybody with term, because that may screw with what they're trying to build, especially defensively. I think this season, given what they were last year, given they fell off a cliff with where they were like a year ago, where they were 2 years ago when they nearly made the playoffs, and last year was just so bad. I think given that, they're in B+ in my eyes.
Okay.
I think this has been a very good year for them.
So far, we're hovering around the same roughly grade. Lane, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. I was just pretty I haven't said it on the desk because I wasn't on the desk for a while, but I've been pretty critical of Steve Yzerman because I thought that he thought he was so great in Tampa Bay. Then he left and Julien Brisebois took over, and I thought he did I actually think, to be honest, I think Brisebois actually did better with Tampa Bay than Yzerman did, because I thought when Yzerman left, I thought that team was going to fall off a cliff, but little did I know that team just got better and better. But and following Steve Yzerman kind of joined the Detroit Red Wings, he made some really crazy picks. He did some really crazy things. I thought, yeah, you're doing some crazy things like what you used to do, but your team's not getting to that winning level. I feel like maybe now we're starting to see the Yzerman effect really kick in. It just took a little bit longer than I thought to get going, but Detroit really feels like a credible team now. So I'd give them a B+, and I think that now that they're actually good, they should try to bind that, because you don't know, is it going to last? Because this is a team that we've seen, be good and then fall off a cliff. Patrick Kane's going to be retiring pretty soon. Is this team going to be good forever? Who knows? This is another team I could see, you talk about goaltending. It's another thing I could see, maybe getting interested in seeing a Jordan Binnington, someone who's a little bit more better than a Cam Talbot, someone who can be a big gamer in a big situation. But nonetheless, it should be interesting to see if Detroit can do in the playoffs. It's nice to see some newer faces. Even though I'm mad about the Leafs, it is nice seeing some new faces in the playoffs this year.
Oh, I'll say this. I think for the Atlantic, as a Leaf fan, it sucks. As a fan of hockey, the Atlantic division is much more interesting now that it's not just Toronto and Florida being the top dogs like they have been the last couple of years. Now you have Tampa that's made a really good run back in. You have Montreal that's looking a lot better. You have Detroit and Buffalo that are looking a lot better. The Atlantic by far is the strongest division out of depth. I know Colorado and the Wild are the two best teams in the NHL, but I think at a pure depth, the Atlantic's the best division. But interesting conversations we've had here today. If you want to hear about the next division, which the next division we will be talking about is the Metropolitan, you'll have to tune back in tomorrow. So make sure you have your popcorn ready for tomorrow. We're going to have it. What we're going to do is, as soon as this episode is releasing, as soon as the Olympics are done, bam, episode releases. Then 24 hours later, the next episode will release. 24 hours the next, and then the final one leading into the first day back into the NHL. So don't you worry. There's going to be
That's a great idea, Jacob.
On how this is going to come down. But I want to thank everyone for joining us at the Analyst Desk, where every day feels like game day. I'm Jacob Moore, the sports analyst, joined by Adam the Goat. Wasn't bit by a spider. He was bit by a goat. We all know. Mr. Lane Dashing Dashko. And of course, the one, the only, the man who writes all his name in capitals, Mr. More for your money. Woo! Until next time, thank you for joining us at the Analyst Desk, where every day feels like game day. And if you haven't yet,
subscribe to our channel.
It's a better feeling than getting a touchdown. So thanks for joining us at the Analyst Desk. We'll see you back in 24 hours. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Four hours.